Okay, here we go. Welcome into the slate. Sorry we're late. I'll take responsibility for some of it because Aaron Rodgers decided that everything's fine. It's really not entirely Aaron Rodgers' fault, to be fair. The Jets and the Packers had to figure out compensation, probably had to figure out the commitment from the quarterback going forward, what number he wants to wear, who he wants to throw to, et cetera, who he wants to keep and whatnot. So it's a long way of bringing up. Sorry we're late. I blame Aaron Rodgers partly. The Jets and Packers have completed the deal, according to Adam Schefter, the deal for Aaron Rodgers. I am pulling up the compensation as we speak. So something I think Jeff Ulrich's here, Brendan Glasheen, we're here till 6 o'clock. We'll be talking about this trade and what it means for the draft, etc. There's some Trey Lance stuff out today. Jets get Aaron Rodgers. They now draft at 15. So they take Green Bay's, they move to 15. They get a 2023 fifth round pick. And the Packers, they're going to pick at 13. So they move from 15 to 13. It's a pick swap. They get a 2023 second, a sixth rounder in this year's draft, and then a conditional 2024 second round pick, which would become a first if Aaron Rodgers plays 65% of the plays. Not the schedule, the plays, which I think that's a small detail. But that's essentially if he just plays the season, it turns into a first.
Did they get 2 second rounders and one of them is conditional? Is that correct?
I'm reading it's the pick swap, a second this year, and it's a conditional second.
Yeah.
So okay, yes, 2 seconds. Yeah. Yes. So
2 seconds, one of them's conditional. Yeah. Okay.
Right. So
plus a first swap.
A first round swap and 2 seconds, and that second for next year could become a first if he plays 65%.
And it probably will become a first. And like they didn't get 2 firsts, but I guess they got what they got was almost equivalent to getting 2 firsts. They got the pick swap, which moves them up. Probably is going to help them get the guy they want. Which
just dive in. I think
about this it's probably Jackson Smith and Jigba, and then obviously getting the second this year as well, which they can use, for whatever the heck they want. So, look, nice deal. Like they're basically getting, it's close to the equivalent of 2. It's about as close to 2 firsts, I guess you can get, considering the swap. Although the swap isn't, I guess people look at the swap and it's not a big deal. I get, moving up 2 spots, but it does cost draft capital to move up. You're still getting the second this year, so kind of like a first and a second and a little something added. It's not really 2 firsts, so but.
Yeah, it's an interesting way of going about it in terms of I never really considered the idea of just swapping picks in the first round. Now, of course, it just worked out that way based on where they are. And I think you're right. I mean, we saw it's not apples to apples, but when the Niners moved up to 3 to go get their guy, granted, it's not a quarterback near 40, it's a college quarterback, but moving up in any capacity does cost something. And I guess to go get Aaron Rodgers, that makes sense. And not just that, but consider like New England's at 14. The Patriots are favored to take a receiver with their first pick. They could also go corner. They could go O-line, but that's relevant because the Packers now leapfrog New England into the ideal spot. And it's exactly, if you look at the Jackson Smith and Jigba over-under props, his number is at 12.5, which is where Green Bay is at 13 now.
Let's talk about this first, because I really feel like this is pretty much what this is about. The Packers are already one of the teams. It's going to take me forever to find this, but the Packers were already one of the teams in on Jackson Smith and Jigba if you looked at the odds. And then obviously with this news, I mean, this is the first wide receiver. He was obviously the favorite, but I'll find this eventually.
You want to go to draft team specials, and then you come down and find, and you'll go by player by player.
It's no, that's just position. Yeah, this is team to draft player. That's what we want. Okay, so anyways, going to this odds. Here we go. We'll find them. We go to Jackson Smith, Jigba, Jan Carter. Here we go.
There he is.
So it's even right now. But again, I mean, I don't know how these two teams can be both at plus 450 when the Packers are now picking in front of the Patriots, right? Like,
right.
I mean, I guess there's uncertainty with the Packers not picking there, but it feels like this is a ripe opportunity is what I would call this. So yeah, I think that the Packers have made this for a reason. I mean, I don't really know of any other huge reason to move up there unless you really were focused on one player. And I think that's the only player that really makes sense. So those are the two teams that look to be in the market. Anyways.
And the Bears are at 9. And just I'm highlighting who's next, right? The Bears are plus 500. They're at 9. I think they've got bigger. Now they went out and got DJ Moore. I get that. They've got Claypool last year, middle of the season.
Yeah,
they've got other needs. I think whether they go line.
Yeah.
Point being I don't think the Bears doesn't make sense. Texans make sense.
Yeah.
I don't understand why the Bears are up there at plus 500.
Texans make sense, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I would say it's Patriots, Packers, or Texans. The Patriots could always, do their own swap with the Texans or something. But yeah, I mean, like the Packers, they got to be thinking this for a reason. I mean, I don't know. Maybe the Packers move up again. Like maybe the Texans would be like, look, we're going to take them unless you pay up. So maybe that could happen. They're at least in a spot now. They have an extra second. So maybe they do deal like a late round pick and move up to 12 and get them. So anyways, I really think like it's a pretty strong move by the Packers. JSN to the Packers, I think is pretty good value at this point. We got to read the tea leaves a bit. We got to read the team needs. They lost Lazard. I think Cobb's gone, right? I mean, I don't.
I think he's just out there right now. Aaron might call him.
He's in the ether. It's a thin wide receiver room, even with Christian Watson. You bring in Watson and JSN with our boy Jordan Love. Oh boy, that's pretty nice. And you can give the old, the double Burt Aaron Rodgers on the way out because you finally drafted first round wide receiver. So actually, I guess they drafted one last year. But point is,
but back to back, and he's been there for almost 2 decades. That's something.
Yeah. So I think it makes a lot of sense for the Packers to go JSN, and those plus 450 odds, man. I like it.
Yeah, I mean, considering Bryce Young is your consensus number 1 pick, the biggest storyline leading into Thursday is probably the quarterback cards and how those are shuffled. Like Levis going to CJ Stroud is falling down the board, but then this I'm fascinated by what this means for Green Bay. Then again, it's just from a sports betting content perspective, I think there's an edge here to at least consider Green Bay to select Jackson Smith and Jigba for the reasons you just mapped out, and just to give Jordan Love to put everything. If you're going to invest in Jordan Love and hand the keys over, just like we talk about this all the time, give the young quarterback a bunch to work with and try to piece it together so it's a smooth transition from Rodgers to him. Anything just really quickly? I know we're doing draft right now. Do you have anything on now that it's official? Anything official you want to take on the Jets? Like, were you worrisome about the deal maybe falling through so you didn't touch anything? I mean, the value on betting the Jets to win the Super Bowl or win the conference, that's long gone. I think the numbers now are horrible, but no disrespect to the DraftKings Sportsbook. I'm just saying, like, they're reacting as they should. They're at plus 1,400. You could have got 25-1 when the rumors started, when Trey Wingo was first on this months ago. So anything on the Jets that you might have interest in, or a way to take somebody else because now that Rodgers is there, you might be looking at value?
I mean, look, the Jets are still a plus 225 to win the division. You've got a team in the Patriots, so I don't think is going to be very good next year. You've got injury concerns with the Dolphins. I still don't hate the idea of necessarily taking the Jets. I would wait to see how things go with Miami and stuff and with the draft. I don't think there's, as you mentioned, I don't know if there's like a huge rush here to get on the Jets. And I don't know, and I don't even know if I'll have a dime on the Jets. I probably won't. Huh. We've just seen this could work really, really well. This could also just be a catastrophe. And I don't know if like, to your point, if we're not getting huge value, you're basically just taking a shot in the dark here. Like, look how bad Russell Wilson, the transition was last season. I don't think it's going to be that bad. I'm actually pretty bullish on this. The Jets have a very good young defense. I really like their young receiver, Garrett Wilson. I think they've got plenty for Aaron Rodgers to work with, and I think they have just a more stable coaching staff. But it's a veteran quarterback going into a new system, and it's a finicky I don't want to call him an old guy, but he's like, a finicky veteran quarterback. And I don't know how this is going to work, man. Like, and suggesting that you do know how this is going to work, at least at this point, when he just got traded and we haven't seen anything, you can just take the wait and see approach here. But I have a little bit of interest in the Jets. I'm not out on them at all. I'm waiting to see here. And I want to see maybe what the Bills do. But I am interested in the Jets. The second favorites, plus 225. I think they're going to be good next year. I don't know if they're going to be good that I want to be betting them to like overtake the Bills yet. So,
yeah. I mean, Miami's number has
Miami might be the play. Miami is probably the play right now.
Yeah.
But Miami comes with risks of its own. So
right.
I don't know. The whole division.
Tua bringing up retirement the other day or last week. That's kind of
Brady. All talking. People are mad at Brady because he's trying to steal Tua's job, even though he's not playing football. I don't.
Yeah. We'll say the Patriots number has shortened slightly. That was 4 digits. Now it's at plus 800. But yeah, I think right now with the Jets, easy, especially if you're a New York fan or you're just a Jets fan, it's easy to rush now and think I don't think there's much there. You lost your chance on the Jets as of right now. What do they have for a win total? They're 8, 9. That's probably a market that could be still reasonably priced.
Right. Yeah, they don't have the division winner schedule, which is nice. Actually, I mean,
you just went by. There you go. 9.
Yeah.
Okay, 9.5.
I mean, there's a lot of juice at 9.5, which is expected.
You win 10 games, you're a playoff team, I think.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. I mean, playing the Jets right now, you're basically just taking a stance that they're going to be really good and better than the Bills potentially, which could happen. We could have two big teams in here, kind of like Dallas and Philly again. I could see that scenario where, you get two kind of elite-ish teams and get 2 teams with 10 wins, and maybe the Dolphins fall back a bit, but you do have a third team in the Dolphins that like you can't just write off. Like this isn't like the NFC East last year where, the Commanders and the Giants, they were pretty easy to write off, and even though the Giants were actually good, so I don't know. Like I said, I would probably lean over here on the 9.5, even with the juice, but this is also just not a team that I necessarily want to go crazy with right now. I just think there's better opportunities. So,
okay, so the Aaron Rodgers deal is now complete, and he is a member of the Jets. We just discussed some draft props. Anything else? I mean, we can stay on this on the NFL here for a few more minutes. The other bit of news today out of the NFL. 49ers GM John Lynch says he expects Trey Lance to remain in San Francisco for 2023. We might as well call our show when we come on here like the San Francisco Monday, because I feel like that's all we did last offseason was just talk. Yeah. We talked about the draft, who Shanahan wanted.
From June on.
Who Lynch wanted. When will Garoppolo, all summer, when's Garoppolo getting traded? Who's going to win the job? And Jeff would keep telling me, they've got the best situation in the league. You watch. And Jeff, not only was Jeff right, but he was right to another degree because Brock Purdy could play. Yeah. But Purdy's hurt. Doesn't feel like they really believe in Lance. That story from, I think it was Florio last week. But now Lynch comes out and says, we expect him to be here, which is not a ringing endorsement.
No.
He was asked about Lance. The first thing he said, we and he are focused on his ability to compete and play an integral role on this team, which does not say he's our guy. That's
I honestly do believe there's like I would probably call it a little bit of buyer's remorse. I don't know if it's necessarily buyer's remorse or it's just that the 49ers just like Brock Purdy and they're just because I think that this whole situation is,
or they like Sam Darnold.
Well, but the thing is, like, that's why I almost say buyer's remorse. Like, I think Kyle Shanahan went out and like thought that he wanted like this rushing dual threat quarterback. I don't think he really wants that. Like, no, I
think he wanted Mac Jones. That was his guy.
I mean, look, you could be right. Like, I think that a facilitator, a guy with a little bit more athleticism, like Purdy and even Sam Darnold, at least have a little bit of athleticism compared to Jimmy Garoppolo, just in terms of movement. I think that's what they want. And I think that like Purdy with Shanahan just feels comfortable with it. And I think that's what they're going with. And I think that as Purdy news gets better, this is when the Lance news came out. I do think there's a little bit of smoke here. I'd be if I was the Minnesota Vikings, I would be and they were the team linked to this, the heaviest, but my God, I would be all over this. Like,
Interesting.
I mean, if the 49ers don't want this guy, go get him. He's got a live arm. He can absolutely, just get outside the pocket. He's dual threat. I think he's still got room to grow a little bit as a tosser, just kind of like Josh Allen did. He's still so young. There's no major injuries. I know he had it wasn't an ACL or anything last year. Someone's got to go out and get him if this is available. I mean, I'm not a big Vikings guy, but like they make a lot of sense here. I would love to see that. And like, I don't know why, like, I guess I get it from San Francisco, but I think it's the wrong move for them. But, it's Kyle Shanahan's team. And I really do think there's, like I said, there's some smoke there. I would not be shocked if Lance got moved.
Okay. This Lance, I put news in quotes. I mean, it's a piece of news that Lynch spoke about it to address a rumor or a report from Florio last week. I think it was Florio. I might have the wrong reporter there. That might have been somebody else who reported Trey Lance was on the outs. Maybe it was Rappaport. I forget. I'd have to go find it. It was last week. I know that. And Lynch was clearly addressing it.
Yeah.
But it's worthwhile bringing up because how does it impact not necessarily the very top of the draft, because Carolina is going to take Bryce Young, but what about Houston, who has connections, D'Amico Ryans, Indianapolis, which this wouldn't be Phillip Rivers or Carson Wentz or Matt Ryan. This would be a young quarterback getting a fresh start. So I wouldn't give the Colts a bunch of crap for going to the trade market once again, or going the route of not drafting their own quarterback. You've got Vegas, who could be interested. Atlanta. Yeah. There's a big car. Sorry. Tennessee is rumored to a quarterback. So I bring all that up because you could spend less capital to go get Lance as opposed to using one of your lottery picks to draft CJ Stroud or Anthony Richardson.
I think some of these teams are going to put San Francisco to the test. And by that, I think they're going to, there's some serious discussions around it. You just mentioned 4 teams and they're all legitimately there. If I was the Texans, and I would probably be really interested in this. I mean, the Texans, my God, could you just go out and get Trey Lance and then just start drafting defense and wide receivers? That sounds pretty good. And you still have Davis Mills. And the Titans would be great with Trey Lance and Derrick Henry in the backfield, Tannehill on his way out. The Raiders, can you imagine Garoppolo and Lance again on the Raiders?
Oh, it'd be fantastic.
It would be fantastic. But, I'm going to bring this back just to the odds for a sec. I don't, I think this kind of speaks bad to the 49ers. As high as I was on them last year, I would really watch this. If they do decide to move, all of a sudden, last year, part of the reason why I was high on the 49ers, okay, Garoppolo was the backup. He's a proven quarterback. He's won with the 49ers before. You've got a high-end, big motor guy in Trey Lance who could just carry the team. Now, if they get rid of Lance, the situation is Brock Purdy off a terrible shoulder injury, whatever it was, and Sam Darnold.
Yeah. I
would be out on San Francisco. I'm certainly not betting them a plus 700 for the Super Bowl, and I would be taking a hard look at the Seahawks to win that division. So as bullish as I was on San Francisco last year, if they decide to move Trey Lance or go in a different direction, I would be pretty much out there, I think, in terms of just winning the division. I'm not saying they're going to bomb or be 6-11, but I would definitely be looking elsewhere, maybe even an under on the season long bet.
Yeah, because you love Trey Lance. I mean, that was a big part of your handicap.
I just like the makeup of what they were doing, having a capable backup in Garoppolo who could win you 10, 11 games, and just going for the pure upside with Lance. There's no pure upside play with Purdy and Darnold.
Right.
One of them's coming off a massive injury, and the other guy is on his third team, and he's 24. 11.5 wins for San Francisco. Yeah, I'll take the under.
Interesting. There was a report also this morning from Peter King that he projects, he didn't put out a full mock, but he projects that the Titans could trade up from 11 to draft CJ Stroud. Stroud is falling here. If the Texans do indeed decide to take Levis at 2, so it goes Bryce Young, and then Will Levis, or they could go defense, or they could trade out of the pick and then draft defense a little bit further down. But if the Texans trade out of 2, they could get more, just more capital. And then that would speak to maybe they are D'Amico Ryans is okay with Davis Mills, or he's got a trick up his sleeve and calls his old team and says, let's work something out for Trey Lance. So keep an eye on that with the Texans. And that's why Levis could fall to the Colts. He could fall to possibly Seattle at 5.
So, yeah, let's just talk about Will Levis quickly because we don't have much time. But
please do. Yeah,
I think it's an interesting point you bring up. So Levis was plus 300 to go number 2 about, I think it was 2 days ago.
Yeah,
odds shifted real quick.
I don't love this.
He's a plus 140. Now he's at minus 135.
I don't love that.
The whole world seems out on CJ Stroud. And I don't think CJ Stroud is going here. I don't think it's like sneaky to bet him. I do think that the Ohio State thing, the agent connection to Houston, this whole testing thing.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he's going to be bad. I actually think CJ Stroud looks like a really good quarterback, but clearly I think he's going to fall. I think Levis is either going 2nd or 4th, to your point. I still think Houston could. I'm invested in Levis going 2nd. I do think that's the move.
Okay.
There's a path, like you said. Houston could trade out. Houston could just go defense and then maybe have a trick up their sleeve. Go with Davis Mills. Go with like a trade for Trey Lance, and then. But I don't think Levis is getting past the Colts at 4. So. I don't know. Like maybe if you already have action on Levis at like a good number, maybe you hedge it with him at 4. I just think that he's going to be a top 4 draft pick. Stroud, I don't know where he's going to end up, to be honest. I think he's a complete wild card in terms of who gets him right now, which is kind of cool. It's going to make for a lot of intrigue, but I don't have any intel or good positional betting on him. It's just waiting and seeing. I think could be the Raiders. Raiders would make sense.
I tend to agree. And also the other wild card, maybe it's kind of like how they took Davis Mills in the 2nd round. Hendon Hooker could go at 33 to Houston.
It could. I mean, that could be their plan too. Like they go Tyree Wilson, maybe Jackson Smith and Jigba, or like another defensive player at 12, and then go with Hendon Hooker. I don't think the Texans are going to do that. I think if they bypass a 1st-round quarterback, it would almost have to be Trey Lance. I just don't know how they sell it to their fan base. Having 2 top 12 draft picks and no quarterback, unless it's like a Trey Lance, who was basically a top 5 draft pick like 2 years ago. So
if Trey Lance is moved and it doesn't work out in San Fran, that's going to go down as one of the worst draft.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like I would not be. I'm not. If I was a San Francisco fan, I would not be happy with this news. I like Brock Purdy. I'm not saying he's bad or that he can't even be a starter, but my goodness, this Trey Lance is really young. You have to try and get that upside out of him. Yeah. Anyways.
Okay, we have to go. Sorry again. This Aaron Rodgers trade really messed up the timing of our stuff today. I take responsibility.
Go back to the dark, Aaron Rodgers.
I blame the Packers and the Jets too, but apologies. But we will have coverage. Also, and really quick, I know we got to wrap, but there was a ton of stuff that just broke in the NBA today. De'Aaron Fox, Ime Udoka is going to Houston to be the next head coach. We will dive into all NBA stuff, and I know there's NHL Stanley Cup as well, but we'll get into the basketball news with Golden State and Sacramento playing tomorrow. So we will be sure to touch on the De'Aaron Fox news and anything else that comes across our desks. With the draft starting Thursday, it's a great week, great sports week. For Jeff Ulrich, Brendan Glasheen, thanks for watching The Slate. We're back after the 4 p.m. Eastern Madden Sim tomorrow. The sweat starts at 11 a.m. to begin your day. Have a great rest of your Monday, and we'll talk to you again soon.